Hello, and welcome back to Asian Pulse. I'm your host, Shivani Naiker, and thank you for tuning into your informative and educational network. We are broadcasting from the unceded territories of the Semiahmoo, Métis-Kwantlen, and Tsawwassen First Nations. In 2021, we have lost either 2,224 young men and women due to overdose with illicit drugs. Most of these people who passed away were in the Fraser Health region and in the Coastal Health region as well. Most of the men and women were the ages between 30 and 59. Month of February is also known as the Heart Month. How to keep your heart healthy? Please visit the Heart and Stroke Foundation at www.heartandstroke.ca. February is also known as Black History Month. To celebrate and to learn more information about the struggles of the Black community in Canada, I'll be right back from these words from our sponsors.
Buying or selling a house is a difficult process. Get Prem Prakash from Saba Realty Limited to find you your dream home, whether it's your first house, upgrading, or investment property. Always at your service with a fast, friendly, and honest opinion. Prem Prakash will guide you through the entire process. Get in touch with him today for a free, no-obligation consultation at 778-840-5866. I understand how important it is to have a place called home, and it's frustrating using your hard-earned money on rent. Vic Prasad can make you a homeowner. Get pre-approved services provided to first-time buyers and new immigrants. You can qualify for mortgage even if you have bad credit. Call Vic Prasad now on 604-306-6647. Vic Prasad is associated with Craft Mortgages Canada Incorporated. I understand how important it is to have a place called home, and it's frustrating using your hard-earned money on rent. Vic Prasad can make you a homeowner. Get pre-approved services provided to first-time buyers and new immigrants. You can qualify for mortgage even if you have bad credit. Call Vic Prasad now on 604-306-6647. Vic Prasad is associated with Craft Mortgages Canada Incorporated.
Community Outreach Pharmacy, providing in-home pharmacy services.
This includes our specialized diabetes and blood pressure monitoring program,
Free blister packing, free deliveries, and an in-home injection service throughout the whole Lower Mainland.
Call us at 604-777-5601 for more information.
If you would like to be a sponsor or to have a little segment on our show, please call us at the number in our ending credits. In our studio, we have Sadi Cahoon, who is a Black activist in our community and a community leader who is here to talk about Black History Month. Have a look.
In our studio, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Sadie Kuhn. Sadie is an activist in the community since last 30-40 years, since I have come to know her. And also, this is Black History Month. So we want to talk to Sadie about her activism work in the Black community and where have we come and where are we going. And so for that reason, we need to highlight this month and talk about the oppression of Black community living in British Columbia or anywhere in Canada for that matter. So thank you so much for coming in. And I know you are very, very busy. You're speaking everywhere, giving, because this is a month and everybody wants piece of you, but you are giving piece of us so that we can learn from you as well. So thank you for coming in.
Camilla, we have known each other and been friends for a very long time, and I'm thrilled to be here and take part in this discussion with you about Black History Month.
Yes.
And kind of basically where we go from here, and not just as the Black community, but collectively as communities working together to improve our lives and make things better for the whole community itself.
What I see when it's Black History Month or Black Life Matters is not that the community, the Black community, are fighting for equality and safety and all that. Everyone has to come together as a collective to be able to support any community, whether it's First Nations community, it's Black community, South Asian community, whatever, Chinese community. We all have the history of our own oppression. So I think building that coalition is very, very important.
No, it's critical. I mean, for a safe and supportive society and a just society, we can do nothing else but when any of us, regardless of who we are put in jeopardy, for the collective whole to be willing to stand up for what is right and just and fight for those communities. And I think that it is clear, given the latest report last year from the Commissioner of Human Rights about the state of affairs for BC in terms of First Nations and Black people. We know that many other groups are targeted at particular times, but we also know that the numbers clearly identify that Indigenous people and Black people are targeted to a greater extent. Some of the key questions are, how are we going to go about addressing those matters and helping to make them better? We can't just get angry and say we aren't going to participate, right? We need to come up with clear strategies and expectations and demands that help us realize the goals that we want to have take place. And some of those goals are continuing to build the kind of alliances and connections that are critical for all of us to succeed and advance. The other thing I think that is really important is to be clear with governmental agencies and governments themselves about all of our expectations of what we always talk about a just society, but what does a truly just society and an anti-racist society look like? And I think in doing those things, we can be really, really successful in helping to move the pendulum forward rather than backwards.
So Black Lives Matters, we had big, huge rallies in here.
Yeah.
Because for last 2 years we have been under lockdown, so we haven't seen that kind of thing happening in here. But not to forget what took place in here.
Yeah.
Do you think there is more awareness for the people, ordinary people's mind, that looking at the history? Well, because Black history is not taught in the classrooms,
No.
you know, and we as immigrant, we also don't know the oppression of the Black people living in USA, North America, Canada, and all that. So it's so important that the education has a key role to play to
Yes.
educate our children so that they can go home and educate their parents and grandparents and all that. Unless and until we don't start changing the mentality or the mindset of our youth, nothing will happen. You and me can understand that
Right.
we need to treat everybody the same. Color doesn't matter. We all are human first.
Right.
But at the same time, racism starts at home sometimes, and youth need to be educated. Just like there is an education curriculum of First Nations after so long that there is something, so it should be same thing for the Black History Month or for Black
Yeah.
community. So what do you think of that?
I think that you hit the nail on the head, as they say. Education will be a key component, but we can't just look at the school system itself to be the lone tool to use to help educate our communities and societies, because as you pointed out, where we are now is that we are very, and have always been, so we need to end that, that kind of mindset that it's not been diverse. We have always been a diverse culture in society, and First Nations are diverse groupings of peoples, and so are all the people who have come here since. Does our history, the history that often people learn in school, does it reflect that reality? What we know is that it does not reflect that reality. Like, most people do not know that people of Punjab descent, Sikh descent, were in BC, certainly from the early 1900s. And the contributions that different individuals and groups gave to this province as well as other provinces across the country. They don't know about the contributions of early Chinese settlers,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And not only the work that they did, but the enterprise that they brought, right? They don't know about the contributions of the early Black migration through the Commodore and other ways, through Canada and to the gold fields, right? And the fact that the first dentist in BC was a Black person that practiced around Kamloops and Merritt, right? I mean, we can go through a whole list, and the first teacher that had a degree in BC was a young Black woman. Again, those are the kinds of things that are really important. The first bakery, which was huge, in what is now Victoria, was owned by a Black family and was run the first major newspaper. We can go through the list, but much of that information has been either forgotten or lost. It certainly isn't the information that is shared in the textbooks. And I mean, I as an immigrant here, also in the 60s from the U.S., recognized the real level of disservice and, to a certain extent, disrespect for indigenous people who are a part of this land, the stewards of this land, that their histories and their willingness to share those histories aren't recorded and presented throughout our learnings, right? From science through math, through general histories and current events, right? It should be a full extension of all of who they were and all of who we are too, collectively, as a community and a society, because we've all had much to contribute. And it should be reflected in our history, and it doesn't. Not as of yet, but I understand that it soon will be, and as you know, as a managing editor and curricular developer for legal services, it was one of the things that I was charged with doing, and did it while I was there. And to me, it was an important thing to be charged with, to ensure that the history that traditionally was presented, some of that was presented, but that we included the other contributions, right? Starting with indigenous people, and include all of the other histories that were and are a part of our society.
That's quite a bit you have just said, and I'm just reflecting what is being said, that when we first started, that there is no history of the first Black person who was a baker, first MLA in Victoria was a Black man, and all those things. Do you think we have reached a point now, because recently provincial government is giving $28 million for a Chinese museum in Chinatown. Don't you think this is the time that people like Black community, Aboriginal community, or even South Asian community for that matter, that we do have a museum that we
Totally
can,
reflects us.
we could take our children there. If for myself, I didn't go to school in here, so I don't know the history of the First Nations. I don't know. I'm trying to learn now. But if there is a museum, I can go and read the history, the first settlers of this country, the first person that came, and what they did. So I think that should be that if we're gonna be supporting one community, there is so many other oppressed communities right here before them. And I think we all should be asking that kind of funding to be from a provincial government, and Black history, Black community is one of them. Aboriginal community is another one of them. And today we are recording this show on Valentine's Day.
Yes.
And there is a huge march by Maine and Hastings.
Yes.
And that has been going for last 30, 40 years when the women's were gone missing
Yes.
and murdered and nobody was paying any attention. So
Right.
the women took it upon themselves that they want to show the support, the sisters, the mothers, the grandmothers that they have lost. So it all has to be documented or our next generation will forget about all that.
Yeah. There is certainly the expectation that government will accept the responsibility it has to support the development with community
Yes.
of a broader base representation of all of who we are. And that can be done in one space or more than one, because we know about the Royal Museum in Victoria, but it is a place that's hard to get to, and having a center that covers the wide diversity of people in British Columbia on the Lower Mainland would make sense. I think also in supporting local communities, say the massive impact that the Indian community have had in the north and in places like the Thompson Valley and Kelowna and other areas, that in fact in every small town that I've lived in, and I have to say in BC I've lived in quite a few, excuse me, the wide diversity of people, that they need to have themselves reflected in a broad way. Community centers that exist in almost every community would be a good place to add that recognition. Wouldn't cost the government nearly as much.
Yeah.
Have people from those communities employed within those bodies, right, would make a huge difference. And that does not suggest at all that there shouldn't be flagships in major centers that also reflect the wide diversity of who we are in any in this province generally. And the government would be doing well to do that, and it would help eliminate this perception that different groups of people are new here. Because for the most part, whether they are South Asians or Chinese or Japanese or people of African descent, along with indigenous people, they have been here for millennia. And we need to start actually operating in that light
Yeah.
and understanding that. And again, ensuring that we are better at telling our own history than we have been in the past, with everyone around the table and getting it done.
And whatever I think we need to do, we need to make the First Nations people as part of us, because that's their land we are on, and because that's how they felt.
Well, they have
that
to take the leadership role, I say.
Yeah, and that's how they say that we don't believe. You know, I have a lot of friends that are Aboriginal, and I said, how can I be ally? They said, I don't know how, because nothing, you know, it's not like talk, they need action.
Action.
And we have not. We are responsible
Yeah.
for not showing the action and standing with them
Yeah.
when there's rallies, march, not just going to rallies and march, advocating on behalf of them. You know, they are still, the pain that they are living through with the children missing and things like that. So I think we too haven't done a good job, but it applies to all the other communities as well. Because I think when we talk about racism, we say we become the victim. And everybody that come to the country, regardless of where, we become the victim, and we feel that all the focus should be on me. No, the focus should not be on me.
Right.
There are other people like me who has been through all this before I came in
Yeah.
here. So we need to support each other in that. So do you think during Black History Month, have you seen or do you see any progress done, such as I don't know what. I can't say what because I read quite a bit, but
Yeah.
I haven't read anything.
Right.
And I want to hear from you as an activist in your own community. Do you see any progression with Black History Month or Black Lives Matters? Anything happened so far?
I think that I would have to say, I always want to see the glass half full, right? Yes, I think there are more Canadians now
Yeah.
that know that slavery was a part of Canada before Canadians used to say, oh, there was no slavery in Canada.
Yeah.
So there are more Canadians that are aware that there was slavery here, that Black people have often been treated very poorly.
Yes.
More Canadians that are willing to say that in some cases they have directly been a part of that. That's what the stats say, that people are willing to take that on. And that's because of the ongoing education from both the Black community, but also our partners, right, and our allies who have been willing in what have been really sometimes challenging environments, been willing not only to march with us, but also when they are sitting around tables and people are making rather derogatory comments about Black folks, saying, well, that has not been my experience, or that is not, that is not, as far as I'm concerned, what happened, what I've seen happen is this and this and this. So other people beyond just us, our partners and allies being willing to take things on, and rather than sitting through and accepting those racist or negative comments, to be willing to say, well, that's not been my experience, or why would you say that? Because you and I may have done this and this and this, and it wasn't seen in that way. It makes a world of difference because it call each person out on what they're saying, to recognize what they're saying and what impact it may have on individuals, but also on people collectively. Because there are stereotypes that exist about Black folks that exist, and I know there are stereotypes that exist about other people. We need to be clear that those stereotypes have major impacts on each and every person that are targeted with them, and also on their community, right? It's not limited. So bigoted and racist attitudes tend to spread, and we need to be mindful about what we're doing. If you have questions about particular things, it's important to actually ask those questions and get the answers that are necessary to be gotten, and not to make generalizations that often make no sense at all.
Because I smiled when you were asking that people should be asked.
What I learned from my grandmother and her commitment to work across cultures and internationally was that to remember that we all are human.
Yes.
And that if one person is damaged and destroyed, we all are impacted. We may not think about it at the time, but that is a reality. So we collectively must work to ensure that others are not hurt and damaged because we have been unwilling and saw ourselves incapable of standing up for others to fight for justice and fairness.
With that, thank you so much for coming in today, talking to our audience, educating me, educating our community on Black History Month, and what we as a community can do to be able to support our Black brothers, sisters, family, and talk to them and ask them questions. So thank you for your time, and if there is anything we can do, please, even if you don't hear about it, please ask.
Okay, I will do that. And I also want to close with the note
Sure.
that you raised about the Women's March that's taking place in downtown Vancouver. Indigenous women and women allies marching for the murdered and missing women, Indigenous women across Canada and the U.S. And for all of us to remember and say hi, and to be willing to support the really hard work that many Indigenous women are undertaking to improve the plight of women and girls, not only in their community, but in the community as a whole. So thank you. And thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me to come and speak. I
No
love that.
problem.
Thank you, Sadie. Hope we can all participate in the events and learn more about Black History Month and support Black community in their struggle with racism. If you're organizing any events and would like to promote it on our show, please email us at asianpulse@gmail.com. We have run out of time. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did bringing it to you. If you would like to watch our show again, please tune in on Wednesdays at 1:30, Thursdays at 8:30, and Saturdays at 5:30 p.m. All our shows are also aired on our Calgary broadcasting on Channel 10 on Shaw. Also, all our shows are also uploaded on our YouTube channel under The Camilla Singh Show. If you'd like to be a sponsor or would like to show anything on our show, please call us at 604-537-5123. Before I leave you with these thoughts. He who wishes to secure the good of others has already secured his own, by Confucius. I'm your host, Shivani Naikar, and have a wonderful day and see you all next week on the same channel and same station. In the meantime, take care of yourself and see you all next week.